watched hockey and thought, wow, how did the sport begin and what are the origins? Well, today I'm going to go over the beginnings, formation, and origins of the sport of hockey. And anyone ranging from a huge hockey fan to someone who doesn't really watch hockey can easily learn about the beginnings of this sport. And I'm going to go over the ancient origins, the early European origins, the first ever recorded game, the organization of hockey, and the professionalization of hockey. Archaeologists believe that up to 4,000 years ago, ball and stick games were being played among people, and ancient Egypt and Rome had a game called Paganica, and even though they're the same name, they were a little bit different. And then the ancient Greeks had their own game called Karatizzian, and that involved using curved sticks to knock a small ball into a goal. And then all these early games influenced European games that appeared across Europe between the 16th and 19th centuries. And Europeans played these similar ball and stick games, and they brought them over to the Americas. And some of these games included Ireland's game of hurley, England and Scotland's game of shinty, and England's game of bandy. And while all these games were different, they were similar in the fact that they used a stick and a ball, and the main goal of the sport was to knock a ball into the opposing team's goal. And all these sports were early influences for the sport of hockey and how it formed, which takes us to the very first game, the Montreal game. On March 3rd, 1875, a man named James Creighton organized the very first hockey game at the Victoria Skating Rink in Montreal, Quebec in Canada. And this man also created the very first set of rules. And the original game was between two groups of 9 players. And this game was a very significant game in the sport's history as it marked the very beginning. And Coffey stated in his book, The Step-by-Step, The History of Hockey, that the significance of the first recorded game lies not just in the fact that it was the first recognized indoor hockey game, but also how it set the stage for the formalization of the sport. And what separated hockey from these other ball and stick games is that it actually used a puck, because it allowed the players had more control over it than a ball, and also it was less likely to fly out of the playing area and hit spectators. And this game was met with very positive reviews, and this marked the beginning of this sport. And now, following the Montreal game, this leads us into the organization of the sport of hockey. And the very first organized team was created in 1879 at McGill University in Canada, which was the alma mater of James Creighton. And in the early days, the game was played informally, but they needed to add structure and rules, a consistent set of structure and rules to apply to leagues and teams that were forming across Canada and the United States, and to address the rising popularity in this sport. Now that hockey has been organized, this takes us to the professionalization of hockey. The very first professional league was the International Professional Hockey League in 1904, and the next significant ice hockey league was the National Hockey Association, or the NHA, and that was formed in 1909, and that comprised of teams throughout Canada. And the creation of this league allowed for more spectators to take interest in the sport. And this league did ultimately dissolve due to the NHA's owners and the owner of one of the teams having a dispute. And then this dissolvement of the NHA led to the formation of the NHL in 1917, which is the National Hockey League, which is the league we know today. And the original NHL consisted of 4 teams across Canada in Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. And Coffey stated in his book that the NHL's formation marked a turning point in the organization and commercialization of hockey, and it laid the foundation for the modern professional game. And the newly formed NHL was growing in popularity, and throughout the 20s, they added teams in the United States, such as teams in Boston, Detroit, New York, and Chicago. And In this speech, I explained the history, the beginnings of hockey, which consisted of the ancient origins, European origins, the first ever recorded game, the organization of the sport, and the professionalization of the sport. And now that I've went over the origins of this sport, I hope next time that you watch the game, you can think about the origins and the beginnings.
Very good, May.
Wait,
That was
just a
great. So good. Mika?
Very good, Mika. Very